and we start with some misery in an enormous jarring shift of tone, because that's how things go. We're starting with some international news. Look, you did this, we did this. In two ways. We both did this in the sense that we said, look, the way this railway has been built worries us. And then we came back and said, okay, this derailment has happened. And here's why what we said was related to this and also wasn't related to this. It's a good episode. Everyone should go watch it. But the frustrating thing is that as far as I can tell, this seems to have been considered the end of the matter by the authorities in Mexico.
Yeah, I mean their interoceanic railroad derailment. It does seem like they've just decided, well, the engineer fucked up. That's whatever. We'll throw him in prison or some garbage, you know.
Yeah. Resolving absolutely nothing.
Not really.
Yeah.
Not really any sort of reckoning with. You know, they built a brand new, 1890s railroad.
Yeah. Exactly. Like the questions are, what are the costs associated with putting in preventative signaling and train control systems? Why was that decision not made? Why, what is driver fatigue? What's the signage like for drivers? What's sighting like for drivers? All of the important questions that would actually allow the railway, this fatal derailment resulting in 14 deaths. All of the things that would actually stop this from happening again have been not even asked.
Yeah, no one's brought any of that. Yeah, no one's brought any of that up. No, that's completely out of scope. It's like, well, forget about it.
Yeah, forget about it. Yeah, exactly. So if you want to learn more about this, then we did a news brief about a month ago for W2IP on this. MA, Scooter, and myself, and the core crew. It was a good episode. Everyone should go listen to that. The 2.5 hour news brief. It's WTYP. What do you expect? But it was good. We went through a lot of stuff in there. Well worth having a read through, having a listen, or watch through.
That was where we made our other grim prediction, which is nothing would happen, and they would just try to nail the guy's dick to the floor.
Yeah,
which is what happened.
What's happened? Yeah, that's exactly what they've done. Yeah, which is extremely frustrating, and it's going to mean it means that everyone who's traveling on that railway is no more safe now than they were before. Whereas when there was an accident, everyone on a train after the accident should be safer than they were before, and that's not happening here, which is extremely frustrating. Talking of Spanish-speaking countries and problems, the Adamuth crash in Spain, the high-speed crash. So I've done a lot of stuff on this, talked a lot about it. Not much movement, to be honest, since I'm saying we were right again, but I predicted on the morning after this had happened, I said this is as a result of a failure at a weld that's derailed the trains into each other, and everything that I'd said up to this point has been shown to be correct, including by CIAF, the investigators themselves. The open question, though, the key thing is that none of that's particularly interesting. How the derailment happened after the trigger, just like we were saying with the Mexico crash, right? The problem with the Mexico investigations, they've gone, here's the trigger, and we know everything that happened after that. Story solved, problem solved. It's like none of that's particularly insightful or interesting, right? That's easy to predict by a Muggins here on the internet 1,000 miles away. The thing that's interesting is why did that happen? And it's absolutely the case for the Spanish crash, right? You guys haven't talked much about this in WTOP. I think you did it for news, but not much else, right?
Yeah, we haven't talked much about this one.
And to be honest, there's not it's the sort of thing where you might as well wait until further cover it in a later episode when proper details emerge, so we can talk about the why, because the why is the interesting question. One of the stories that has come out that's interesting, though, is the fact that there are 30 train inspection drivers. ADIF is like Network Rail, or it's the infrastructure manager in Spain. 30 of train inspectors who've been getting paid without working for more than 2 years, saying 7 months at home and 2,500 on the payroll. Now they're just sitting around doing nothing in a room from 8 to 4. Essentially, these guys are the people who've been hired to inspect the railway, including ultrasonic inspection. And the story here is that they weren't doing that. Whether this is a direct relationship to the crash itself is TBC, hopefully by the investigation. But this is worrying, I would say.
Well, I will say, no show, no work job. That's a good gig if you can get it.
That is true. Yeah, Lordy, absolutely the case. But we know what happened here. We know that there was a failure at a weld. The failure, the nature of the failure is such that it's likely failed. It's a propagating crack. It could be an inclusion in the weld in the heat affected area there. Again, the metallurgy of that, not hugely important. The fact that it was not picked up by inspectors or if it was picked up by inspectors, that it was not communicated adequately to maintainers, or if it was communicated adequately to maintainers, that maintainers didn't have a chance to do anything about it. Those are the questions that are interesting and should be getting, I hope, are getting answered. It's worth saying the European Rail Agency, or the ERA, whatever they're actually called, have sent some delegates into the investigation team. In the 2 videos, so I've done some videos about this. I did a rail natter and then I did a big detailed follow-up video. That was the key challenge, was that the quality of the last investigation, the big Santiago de Compostela crash, the one we've put images on W2IP several times before.
The one they got on video, right?
The one they got on video. That investigation was awful. It was a dreadful investigation, a deeply flawed investigation that, frankly, is still not really adequately concluded. And the worry is that that's exactly what's going to happen here, and I hope not. But in terms of what's actually happening, it's stalled for some reason. The actual investigation, they still don't have access to the black boxes for some reason. This is staggering to me. They should have got access to those within a day or 2. They will have been absolutely intact. And also, they seem to be having issues with evidence going walkies as well. So not hugely reassured by the quality of the investigation on this one so far, I have to say. Yeah, anyone joining this who hasn't seen the stuff that I've done on this, I covered this in detail for a Rail Natter with the Practice Cast lads, and then again in even more detail in a kind of a second follow-up video, which you can go and watch if you've come to this and are not familiar with what happened, but we cover all that in detail there.